Hi, I'm Dr. Daniel Keller. I'm one of the psychologists at the Wellness Center, and I'm happy to present to you here today a little bit about stress and stress management so that you might be better prepared for your experience abroad. I have grown up in Switzerland. I have lived in the US for many years and lived in China. So cross-cultural adjustment and teaching people about that has always been a passion for me. And so I'm excited to talk with you about it. And we're going to start today by what is stress? And the next slide. And so stress is basically our physical and emotional response to environmental demands. And typically, stress can be caused by both positive events or negative events. And so classic examples of that are, for example, somebody going through a marriage, which obviously is a positive event, but can still be quite stressful. Or a negative event might be somebody losing their job and then the stress associated with that. So both positive or negative things can cause stress. And typically in the way that it impacts us is in three ways. It's typically can be either physical, like we might be feeling really tired, or we might be having a headache. Emotional factors can be like feeling really irritable all of a sudden, or a lot of sadness, or cognitive factors, like you might see changes in your ability to concentrate, or changes in your ability to your memory. There may be problems there. And so those are kinds of things to watch out for, those three dimensions where the stress might affect you the most. Let's go to the next slide. And so what are some of the things that can actually impact students studying abroad, and where does stress derive from? So one of the first ones is, and important one, is communicating in another language. So language is a crucial part of our sense of identity, and our ability to express our feelings and thoughts is really important and gives us a sense of who we are. If all of a sudden you're not proficient in another language, and you might struggle to express yourself, or your ability to talk might be more childlike because you're not familiar with the language, that can be quite distressing to someone and can kind of make you feel not as competent and confident. And stress can be a result of that then. Understanding or adjusting to different educational systems. So in the US, our educational system tends to be pretty interactive at the university level, typically. So in some other countries, educational systems might be more top down, and so might result in you maybe being just asked to kind of sit there and listen to a lecture as opposed to participating a lot. And some people find that boring or stressful, so it's something to adjust to. Making friends or dating people with different cultural backgrounds. Dating, the concept of dating might not even exist in some other countries, but even definitions of friendships can be quite different. For example, in Europe, people are sort of slow to label somebody a friend, whereas in the US, I think people apply that label pretty quickly to someone. And so depending on what your expectations are about how quickly you will make friends, that can be a source of stress. Adjusting to different foods or eating customs, even things like when do we eat? So in some countries, people eat quite late in the evening, and that may be kind of an adjustment that can cause stress. Or even things like food allergies. In the US, we're pretty good these days about labeling what's in food. In some other countries, you might find that those labeling, whether something is gluten-free or not, might not be as readily available. And so the idea of the process of eating can even become stressful. Finding a culturally relevant faith community, obviously, depending on where you are. If you're in a primarily Islamic country, that may be more difficult to, for example, find a Christian church. Experiencing discrimination. So in some countries where maybe the society is pretty homogeneous, people might not be educated as much as in the US about cultural differences, and might feel more at ease to sort of say something, not even purposefully, but might say something that might be hurtful to you, or might be even offensive to you, and that certainly can be quite stressful. Just generally also feeling lonely, homesick, helpless, disoriented. That can even be geographically, right? For example, in the US, cities are oftentimes laid out in a grid, and so it's pretty easy to have your sense of direction in an American city, versus that can be quite different in Europe, where streets are more crooked and not on a grid, and so you might be more easily feeling lost in a city and confused where you are. Next slide, please. So what do we watch out for? The warning signs that we want to maybe make sure that we really do something about our stress. So if we have a prolonged and intense sad mood, for example, or irritation, I would say something that maybe doesn't go away at all or shift at all in like a week or 2 weeks. It's probably a warning sign. Pronounced sleep changes and eating changes. When eating and sleeping goes out the window, oftentimes that can be the beginning of where somebody might experience more mental health concerns and stress. Excessive anxiety, not being able to stop worrying about something, maybe to the point where you might not even feel like you want to leave your apartment because of anxiety, and then subsequently maybe withdrawing from other people. Physical illness that doesn't go away, and one of the more serious things, self-destructive thoughts, suicidal thoughts, or violent thoughts about other people, all of a sudden being so mad about somebody not understanding you that you feel like, oh, I feel like punching them or something. So being alert to those kinds of changes in yourself. And then obviously alcohol or drug use to cope. Different countries, as you know, obviously have different drinking ages. So somebody who's not used to drinking at 18 and all of a sudden has an opportunity during periods of stress, somebody may be abusing some of that or may use alcohol or drugs to cope. And obviously that can have negative consequences for a person. Next slide. So then how do we deal with this? How can we, what are some tips to sort of deal and reduce stress? First of all, it starts with even your attitude towards stress. So not just looking at stress as a negative thing, but actually stress also has positive impacts, right? It can get things done. We can learn something as we go through stress. So even shifting your idea about how you react to your own stress can be one way of paying attention to. Being patient with yourself and with other people, watching out about you judging yourself. Maybe you feel like you have a bad day and then you have a little voice in your head that says, oh, I wish I didn't have a bad day and this is so awful that I'm feeling sad and I'm abroad and I should be happy. All these shoulds and I shouldn't and this is the wrong feeling to have generally doesn't help people get over stress very quickly. A faster way is probably for you to just accept your emotions for what they are, maybe even expect that you're going to feel bad at some point so that it's actually not going to be such a surprise when you're actually feeling that way. Obviously making friends with other people and hopefully not only just people from your own country, but actually people, local students. Maintaining your own cultural heritage, maybe thinking about bringing something that you can share with people that can help you with homesickness. But also being ready to receive something from the cultural context where you're living. Remembering what your personal goals and strengths are. When I went first abroad years ago, it was recommended that you kind of write a letter to yourself before you go and maybe remind yourself, what are my goals and intentions about doing this? And kind of being clear about that and write that down. And maybe during a period of time when all of a sudden you're feeling really miserable about your study abroad experience, that might be a good time to pull that letter out to yourself and kind of reread it and remind yourself of why you did this in the first place. Obviously, laughing and crying, letting your emotions be, managing time effectively, take small risks, keep a good balance of work and fun, maintain healthy routines. If you're sort of feeling overwhelmed by everything being different and all these changes that you're facing, having some kind of routines that you can rely on is always helpful. So if a routine of yours maybe was on a Thursday evening to get together with friends and watch a show every Thursday, maybe developing some of those routines or maintaining some of those routines while you're abroad can kind of give you more of a sense of order and predictability, and you might not feel as disoriented. Dealing with stress as it arises, don't let it accumulate. Watch out for fear of missing out. A lot of times I think when students go abroad, they feel like they need to pack everything full with activities and side trips to go to different places. And so you might not only see yourself study during the week, but then on the weekend be completely your time being taken up by traveling. Maybe reminding yourself that it's okay at one point or another to maybe not having to keep up with your friends, and maybe you will choose to take a break over a weekend and kind of relax and kind of regain your sense of confidence might be useful. Exercising, we all have heard about how exercise makes your endorphins, creates endorphins, which can make you feel better. And obviously asking for help when you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed, and seeing maybe what kind of counseling services may be available through the program where you're at. Next slide. And then some things to think about: how can the wellness center be of help to you? So there's a few things. First of all, our services, of course, are for free, and we provide medical services as well as mental health services on all the different campuses of the university. So if you're, for example, already feeling anxious about going abroad and how you're going to adjust, maybe you might choose to actually seek out some counseling services before you even leave, so that you can develop and learn some more stress management skills as part of a counseling experience at the wellness center. Also, if, for example, you're a person that maybe you struggle with depression or some other mental health concern and you might be on medication, you might be able to use the wellness center to kind of help you figure out whether you might need any kind of documentation to take some of these medications abroad, or also to get a larger supply of these medications if you're going to be abroad for an extended period of time. Some countries have quite different regulations around how many medications and what kind of medications can be brought into the country. So the wellness center may be able to kind of educate you about some of those things. And potentially, if you're, for example, a patient at the wellness center receiving some of these medications, might even be able to provide you with some documentation to get the medications to go abroad. Also, thinking about it when you return, sometimes returning from a study abroad experience, as you've heard in other presentations, can be stressful. You might have some difficulties readjusting to being back in the US. Some people can fall into a bit of a depression when they return. And so that may be another time that you might choose to actually contact us and maybe get some sessions to kind of help you readjust to being back in the United States. So those are just some quick thoughts and ideas that please keep in mind. I hope and I wish you safe travels, and I'm excited for you to have this experience. Wish you all the best.